everyone, welcome to one more session of Best Virtual Summit. Today I have with me Mr. Travis Jarinek from Dow, who is the Business Manufacturing Director in France. Welcome, Mr. Jarinek.
Hey,
Apart,
welcome.
apart from the work in Dow, Mr. Jarinek also enjoys spending time with his family, cooking, traveling, and doing all these amazing activities. He has been working in Dow for 18 years now and is here today with us to present us how a material science company has accelerated its transformation through this pandemic to change the way employees work together and collaborate with their partners. Without much further ado, I pass the word to Mr. Jarinek and, let's see what he has to say. The floor is yours, Mr. Jarinek.
Thank you, Rita. And again, it's an honor for me to be here with you today and to share how our 120 plus years young company, right, and not old company, has been able to transform or to accelerate the transformation through this pandemic. So some of you may know Dow, some of you may don't know Dow, but we are one of the largest chemical company and material science company in the world. We are present in 31 countries, so with a global footprint. And yes, we are 120 plus years old or years young, because our company was founded in 1897. Okay, that's a long time ago, and I will come to that, especially because that explains also the culture of our company and why we also needed a transformation, right? So um, what happened in 1897, right? At this time, and you need to understand what was going on there. In 1900, in Paris, there was a Universal Expo, right? The Paris Expo, and at that time, one guy named Mr. Taylor, and you may know him because he's very famous for the Taylorism, right? He came to Paris with a new method to work by creating really a clockwork system to define any kind of work into different pieces, small pieces, and really standardize this task, etc. And he came to Paris, and he was able to present that with this system, you can manufacture 17 meter of steel in 1 minute. And before his system was invented, was only 3 meter per minute. Okay, so you can imagine multiplying by 6, the productivity was kind of a miracle, right? It was like Steve Jobs coming and presenting the new iPhone, right? So that was the case in 1900 when Mr. Taylor came and presented his new system to work and his new organizational structure. And so you can imagine that at this time, all the companies, right, and our company was already there, they all wanted to learn from that, right? And Mr. Taylor worked for the Ford company, so the car making company in the US, and that's where they started this transformation. But at that time, every company wanted to learn how we can maximize the production, and so they all adapted that organizational model that most of the company now have adopted, and that honestly it really helped us in the 20th century to go through all the crises, right? Dow went through multiple crises. You can name it either through the First World War, and then the big economical crisis in 1929, and then another crisis with the Second World War. And but our company went through all these crises and was building on that and show its resiliency, right? And this is because we were adopting that model of operational excellence, very good standard, very defined work processes, etc., etc. And this is what Dow is now very well known for, is all of our work processes, etc. That has helped us in the 20th century, but is it enough to survive in the 21st century, right? And I can let you imagine the answer, that the answer is no. Okay, the answer is absolutely that we needed to reinvent ourselves in order to survive in the 21st century. And so we have collaborated with General Stanley McChrystal, and I will explain who he is in a minute. But I like his quote that transforming our way to work is really reflective of the new generation of mental models that we must adopt in order to make sense of the 21st century. There is a lot in that sentence, and this is basically the driver for all this presentation. Right now, with the pace of change that is happening, right? We needed a transformation, because what worked 100 years ago, or even 20 or 30 years ago, is not working anymore, right? So we needed to reinvent ourselves. And this guy, General Stanley McChrystal, was the General Army for the joint forces in Iraq and Afghanistan. Right, so he had the tough mission to fight against terrorism in the early 2000s. And at that time, also the war was in a transformation. I mentioned earlier the First World War and the Second World War. Um, you all have gone through history study, etc. So you know how this war went, when one country against another army that are moving at the pace of the vehicle or the airplane, etc., etc. Right. So there was a full strategy around that, and also the way the army was organized was fitting that model. But you can imagine that with terrorism, you are not fighting a country, you are fighting little groups that are very agile, moving very fast. And so you also need to adapt your response. And so that's the first thing that we have learned, is that, yeah, we needed to be more agile and more resilient, okay, to go through all these changes. And of course, with this pandemic coming, everything accelerated, right? In February, and it started in January in China, because we have operation in Asia. But then suddenly you're hearing people getting sick, so that is impacting people, that is impacting your organization. But in the same time, you have a lot of economies, uh, um, a lot of industry that are shutting down. And so every day you have moving parts, right? Either from your own organization, you have moving parts, or from your customers, and for the market you are in, they are changing daily, right? And before that was maybe monthly or quarterly. But now you are in an environment that everything is changing daily, and you need to adapt and you need to react. Otherwise, it's too late. So we really needed that transformation. And of course, our first objective was to continue to collaborate with community partners globally. So we have done what a lot of other companies has done through the crisis, right? Either through donation program to support a lot of local nonprofit organization. We had a company match donation program. We have quickly repurpose some of our production line in order to be able to produce hand sanitizer that was highly needed at that time, and we had to react very quickly. And you can imagine, right? We are a big material science company. We have very clear processes. When you want to do a change, usually it takes 6 months, 1 year to make a change, right? To go through all the layers, all the process, to get all the approval, etc. But when you have a crisis like this pandemic, you cannot afford to wait 6 months or so, right? So we again had to adapt and find a way to speed up our decision process and to implement this solution that everybody had in mind, right? Either in a lab or in a manufacturing facilities. Suddenly, all the people they had all great ideas, right? Hey, yeah, we can help. We have this machine that can help to produce face shield to protect the frontline responders, right? Or hey, we can produce masks. Hey, we have this tank and we have all the raw materials. So why do not producing hand sanitizer because there is a shortage in the country. So in order to be able to do that so quickly, again, we had to completely reinvent the way we work together and use really our technology as a backbone, right? So like I mentioned, we are a material science company. So this is what we master. We master chemical process, we master equipment and technology. We have all the technologies available, either if you talk about 3D printing, we have it. We have the knowledge. We have all the raw materials. We have the process, etc. But how to combine this technology know-how and the work process to fit the new needs, and honestly needs where daily there was new needs, right? In different countries in the world, they came up with new requests. Hey, we are in a shortage of hand sanitizer. Okay, what can we do to help? Hey, we need detergent. Okay, what can we do to help? Hey, now it's time to go back to work, to the workplace, but we are in a new environment and we need new tools in order to limit the contact and the touching point. Okay, what can we do to work on that? So again, we use our technology as a backbone, and like a lot of our companies have done through the crisis. But really, what was really happening in the background is that we have accelerating our transformation through this crisis. And I like this picture because this represents exactly who we were and the transformation we were going on, and who we become, right? So you can imagine a 120 plus years young company with 14,000 employees around the world in 31 countries. When you drive such a company and put yourself in the shoes of our CEO, it's like driving a giant Pagbo, right? That I have on the image on the left. And this is good, right? You can transport a lot of people. It's very efficient. Um, as long as there is no big waves, no big storm, and you know exactly the direction you're heading, right? That's usually how it works with a pack boat. You go on a cruise and you know exactly what are your stopping point, how many miles or kilometers you have to travel, etc., etc. But that is not the best um, tool to go through a storm, right? This is very heavy, very difficult to maneuver, very difficult to change direction, right? And you can only do it at once. So we couldn't afford that. And this is really not what we needed to go through the crisis. So we had to move to what I've represented on the second picture on the right, is to be able to be more agile, okay, more fast, to have smaller team, right? Taking action. Hey, yes, this team needs to go in that direction, but this team needs to tackle this. So how can we keep what the strengths that we have, but adding that agility and that resilience to go through the crisis. So this is really what was happening and what really enabled everything we've been able to achieve and that we want to keep doing, because this is not only a question for this pandemic, right? The pace of change has accelerated, right? Remember, and honestly, I'm born in 1978, okay? At that time, there was no cell phone. I had no computer at home. Internet, I didn't know what it was. Okay, so change was very slow. There was, yeah, maybe one innovation every 10 years, etc., and was basically an improvement of on one technology. Now, innovation and it's and changes, major changes are happening on a yearly basis or even every month, right? If you look at the cell phone, how quickly they are changing. So the pace of change has accelerated. So for us, it's vital not only for this pandemic, but just to run our business in the new norm. We need to be much more agile and quicker in the decision and in the execution. And so really the true transformation that was happening is really what I've showed here. And this is really a new organizational model, and we are using it as a muscle, right? This is a muscle that put us in motion. And you can see here the old structure, right? Where you have the CEO, he is a big boss, and then you have the other boss, and then the other boss, and so on. And you have multiple people all around the world, very hierarchical, okay? And that is really what Taylor created in 1900, and that almost all the companies adopted since then, because it created a very robust, very repeatable organization, and you ensure you have control, right? So this is really the model of command and control. You have one decision and you go top down, and then in the bottom you execute, okay? And sometimes you can raise things up and say, hey, I have an idea, but it takes time to go up to the decision chain and then come back, and then finally the decision is made. Again, that was working in the past century. This is not working anymore in our century. And again, that pandemic crisis has put a magnifier of the need to change. And so we have quickly adopted a new structure, which is called a team of teams, right? So instead of having that hierarchical model, you have now multiple team, and each team has responsibility, clear goal. They are empowered, but they also have shared consciousness, right? And when you combine the two, when you have a team, a small team that can understand the full picture, what's going on at the company level, what is going on in the market, etc. So they have that full picture understanding. But if they are also empowered to make decision, that that's when you can really accelerate the decision process and implement ideas faster than ever before. And so that's what we've been able to do in such a short period of time. We already started to do that for the reason I explained to you earlier, but this crisis has accelerated the need to move from the old structure to the new structure, to be more flexible, more agile, and really faster. And I can tell you this is much more enjoyable also to work in this kind of model, right? Nothing is more frustrated than having a great idea. You see the need in front of you, but you have to wait 6 months to get it approved. And then when finally the decision is made, it's too late because the need has disappeared, right? So moving to that structure was first highly needed, but I can't tell you that it's also changing the way we work and the way we enjoy working. Because again, we have a better understanding of the overall situation, and we know that we are also empowered to make decision at our level and then go and execute. And so that was really the key transformation that I wanted to share with you. It's important because you are the new workforce, right? You will join our workforce, and this is the new structure that you will find now in most of the companies. We have started, that pandemic has accelerated the transformation, but that's a fantastic news for you, because with this model, you can really see on a daily basis the impact that you have, that your work have on the world around you. And I think that for all of us, that's what really matters, right? When we work, we want to make an impact. And with this structure, it's visible. So I will stop here, and I will open up for question. And thanks for having listened to that session so far.
Thank you, Mr. Jelinek, for this amazing session and really insightful themes and topics. Now we'll pass to the Q&A session. So to everyone that is listening to us, if you have any session, you can just write it in whether in Facebook or YouTube. Where are you listening? As actually, I have already one question for you, Mr. Jelinek.
Yep.
So you have mentioned that these transformations that you are. Oh, and if you want, you can stop screen share your
Oh, sorry.
screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so our listeners can listen to you, can see you. Okay, so you have mentioned that these transformations that are happening are not only for this pandemic reality, but can be adapted to the future. So,
Yeah.
in your opinion, with what changes will need to happen in those future?
What changes? So it's not really a change, right? It's to continue what we have learned through this pandemic needs to continue. And this was an acceleration of our transformation. And what we don't want is to lose momentum, right? There was a tremendous momentum. And like every change, it's always very easy when you make a change to very quickly go back to your traditional habit, right? So the challenge for us right now will be to maintain this new model, this new structure, and to keep it, because again, this is vital also even beyond the pandemic, because like I was saying, our environment is changing quickly. Our customers, they have new need almost every year, right? Either because the consumer are changing their habits, or there is new regulation, or there is new focus or new topic, etc. Right? You see that in the news. Every month, it's another thing, right? And so we need to accept that, and be able to be more agile, to adapt to our customer needs that are changing at a faster pace than ever before. And so this model, we really need to keep it to be able to deliver what our customer are expecting from us.
Okay, thank you. And actually, I really think that like this model of being agile can be adapted to any circumstance and any work environment and even an academic environment that we may experience. Thank you. I have more questions for you. So, how is DAO facilitating this change of structure? What role do the bosses play in it? And what obstacles did you encounter and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, because you can imagine moving a pack bow is not easy, right? And the key is first to have a vision. And our CEO has a clear vision. That's the transformation he wants for the company. He took over this company 2 years ago. He was named the new CEO, and he has started right day one on this transformation. And then really to the key is to share his vision, and to like I was saying before, right, increasing the shared consciousness, that every employee in our company understand the vision, understand where we want to go, and what needs to happen. So to do that, our CEO, and through the crisis, has done every week there was a webcast that everybody could attend, like we are doing today, right? And he was sitting like me in front of all the employee of our company, and invited some guest speaker. So the first day was General Stanley McChrystal, that I mentioned, who wrote a book named Team of Teams, where he explained the new model, the reason to adapt it, like you said, in the educational way, in the industry, everywhere, right? And how it works. And so by explaining, sharing that vision, and explaining to all the employees how we are going to achieve that was key, right? Because now everybody understand, okay, this is what we are going to do. But that's only the beginning, right? Then you need really to give the power to the people to say, hey, before you had to escalate and request the approval, now you are fully empowered to do this. And so we have also formed this team, right? And that was, so during the pandemic, every country, they form a little team that we called crisis management team, with one represented from each function, working together, meeting either daily or twice a week or once a week, depending on the situation, etc. But this team was first fully empowered, had all the information, and was able to react very quickly and take action. And so, first you show the direction, but you also need to show the action, right? So that people really believe, oh, yeah, this is true. This is what we are going to do. Okay, let's do it. And then you need to show the results. And that was the third things that we do during this weekly webcast. We're also showing to all the employees the result of our transformation, saying, hey, last week in Stade in Germany, we have repurposed one production train, and now we are ready to produce hand sanitizer. And we did that in less than 10 days. Outstanding. Continue, right? We've done the same in Texas by repurposing some of the line. We developed a new model for the face shield to protect the people in the hospital, and we shared that on LinkedIn and Facebook, etc., etc. So then people see the action, they see the results, and then that's when you have everyone believing in your vision and your direction, and then you really make your transformation visible.
Well, amazing. It's the results that you are telling us are like really amazing. How you can could adapt so quickly and so agile in a really agile way, and it's really inspiring for people like me, young students that will in the future go to these work environments to see and try to see and to adapt us in this reality. We have time for one more question. The question is, as we switch to a more decentralized structure, how can we ensure that the loss of control is not accompanied by a loss of quality of the products or service that we deliver to the customers?
Yeah, no, that's another great question, and it's true that, yeah, we decentralize, um, and I can take an example, right? So pick your favorite sport team, right? Either if it's football or basketball or whatever. Can you imagine having a centralized decision-making process where only the coach decide what each player is doing? Do you think the team will be able to score? I don't think so, right? You need every player to be fully empowered, but before empowering them, you are selecting them, right? That's usually what happened before, right? You select your players, and then you say, hey, you are a good goalkeeper. You go keep the cage. You are a goal kicker. Then you go forward, etc. Right? So that was also what was happening. By putting this team in place, we also validated that the team had the right skills, the right experience, to make the right decision. So yes, you lose a little bit the control, but you give the power in a team that you fully trust. And trust was key in this transformation, and it's still key. If you don't trust, and it's a mutual trust, right? But if you don't trust your people, then you cannot do that. And people like me, I was part of the French CMT. We felt trusted. And we also trusted our leaders that they will support us. If we take a decision and at the end it's a wrong decision, they will still support us because they know that we took that decision with the information we had and that at that moment it was the right one. So
Okay,
trust is the key.
thank you, Mr. Jaranek. And it's really true that trust can it's the key in every work environment and in every environment that people are feeling welcome to share their opinions. And well, thank you for this amazing session to share the work that you are developing. It was really inspiring and it was really amazing to see how DAO is empowering so much your workers. I hope you enjoyed this session as well, and I hope you enjoy your time with us. And to everyone that is listening to us, well, stay tuned for the next session that will be an interview with Peggy Pon about entrepreneurship, and I hope you enjoy the more sessions in this past virtual summit. So stay tuned. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.